Save big during Labor Day at Lowe's. Get up to 40% off select major appliances. Plus, buy more to get up to an additional 20% off. Shop even more savings with 3 Stay Green 1 cubic foot vegetable and flower garden soil bags for $10. This Labor Day, take care of your home for less at Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid through 9/3. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. Select locations only. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on Dr. Daliah Show, 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So Thursday and Friday, we learned that Eric and Lyle Menendez of the famous Menendez brothers were denied parole. And there was a lot of talk about this over the weekend, and I'm kind of surprised that people are surprised by that. I don't understand why that's such a shock. And I think what's happened with the Menendez brothers has been just one, I guess, colossal cluster after another. As you remember, they were charged for the killings of Jose and Kitty, their parents, back in 1989. I believe Eric was 18 and Lyle was 21 at the time. Now they're 54 and 57. And multiple shots, I think over 16 shots were fired. At first, the mom, Kitty, didn't die, so Eric had to go back to his car, reload, allegedly, and go back and finish the job. And then there were reports that they went on a big shopping spree, spending like $1 million. They tried to claim the mafia did it, although if your parents were shot, you would think the last thing you would be doing is a shopping spree. And then their first case, I think, was a hung jury because I think the women felt that they were sexually abused and they didn't want to throw the book at him. But many of the men in the jury said, no, I'm not buying it. So then they went through a whole nother trial where the sexual assault wasn't as much of a role in much of the testimony. And then they end up getting life in prison. And so Netflix and other TV networks had done some shows on them and docuseries and things like that. But the one on Netflix got a lot of attention. So that people who weren't even born in, younger generations who saw this was like, oh my gosh, we have to let these guys go. Then we heard in the news that they were outstanding citizens in jail. They were helping others, and maybe they did. And so you start going, well, wait a second. And you even start doubting yourself, going, okay, wait a second. Is something here wrong? But I wasn't 100% on board because not every convict gets a Netflix special. And why do these two get to have resentencing and another option at early release than somebody else? They're rich, they're famous, but what about non-rich, non-famous? Now everybody's going to want a Netflix special so that they get that public opinion and outcry. So from what we understand, their parole was denied because there was, they had, I guess, contraband cell phones. There was some alleged drug trafficking and other things. I don't know all the details, but they did not feel that either one of them should make parole, especially some of the things that were issues is one is if they were sexually abused and assaulted, which is horrible. And maybe they were 18 and 21, young, strapping men. They could have just left, moved out. But that's why they said, well, my father would have had a hit on us. Really? That was their excuse. I mean, they could have fought back. They could have called the police and said this was happening. Or they could have moved out. They were 21 and 18. So that's a concern. And number two is, why kill your mommy? Well, we just looked at my mom as one person, and they have expressed regret. They have expressed that, that was wrong. And they did admit to the murders. But, why do you have to and then go back and finish the job? So that is a concern. And then if you were doing things within jail that denied you parole, because here's the other thing, too. I mean, we got to treat all convicts equally. It can't just be whoever's rich and who's getting all the attention. But unfortunately, that's what happens these days. And you got all this public support and public empathy. And then now, like we're seeing with the Abrego Garcia, if he is really, working with MS-13, if he was really an MS-13 gang member, you can't treat him differently from another MS-13 gang member that's in America illegally. They all have to go. You can't just pick and choose just because you have, people, saying, oh, well, I like them or they're cute or whatever. So what happens next for them, as if anybody cares, but some people do care. So from what I understand, they could apply for another parole review in about 18 months, which is an early expedited, or they could wait another 3 years. Or from what I understand is Governor Gavin Newsom could intervene and give them clemency or use his power. Somebody could pardon them. And, here's the thing. John Hinckley Jr. has been released, the one that shot Ronald Reagan. And how do you know somebody has rehabilitated? How do you know that they are safe to be among others? It's a tough question. You could say and be as manipulative as you want in the parole hearing. How do we know what you're going to do outside? But then on the other end, 35 years in jail, 35 years or 37 years or however long, that's a lot of time in jail. Did they do their time? My issue with this is if this was the sentence that everybody else has gotten, black, white, Asian, Latino, you can't just give them, special opportunities because they're rich and because a Netflix special was made about them. That's not cool. The Netflix special was good, but boy, did it get really deep and dark. And you kept asking yourself, did this really happen? Was this true? And then allegedly, I think it was Lyle got caught bragging, that he fooled the jury. And, they did some stupid things. These boys were stupid. And so as far as I'm concerned, no, I don't really, think that it's a big shock that they didn't make parole. Can they still be useful and be good citizens in society? Well, it depends. I'd like to know what they've actually done in jail, if they have reformed. But at this point, why let them out when there's other people also that, only murdered one person and not two? So we got to make it fair and equal. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hotshot Secret, powered by science.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So we are being told, CNN is reporting that for the first time, a genetically modified pig lung was transplanted into a brain-dead man. And this lung functioned for 9 days. Now, we've transplanted pig kidneys. We've transplanted hearts. But a lung we haven't done yet. And this is believed to be the first attempt. And they think that this could someday be, an option for people in need of organs. Authors from Guangzhou Medical University First Affiliated Hospital in Qing did not identify the patient in the study, but they did describe him as a 39-year-old man who sustained a brain hemorrhage and was brain dead. Doctors transplanted a pig lung into his body after getting consent from the man's family, and then the findings were published Monday in the journal Nature Medicine. As with any human-to-human transplant or animal-to-human transplant called xenotransplantation, it's very easy to reject something like that. Your body is not stupid. If your body will be able to tell. You know how mommies know if you're lying, right? Just by smelling you. Your body will know if something's pig or even another human's and not yours. But what we do is we immunosuppress you so that you don't reject the transplant. And then we also give you antibiotics and other medications to reduce the risk of infection. Now, the lung itself of this pig had to undergo 6 gene edits, according to CNN, and the donor pig was kept in an extremely clean and strictly controlled area for its entire life. They say in the study, the researchers reported that they did not see immediate signs of rejection after the transplant, but problems did arise the next day. The man started to swell up, fluid built up in his tissues, and we need lungs. Obviously, our lungs oxygenate our air, and so we don't really have a lot of lung transplants that are done, especially from a pig standpoint, but we are in dire need of organs. And so he recovered days after the transplant, but his body started to reject the organ anyway. So the fact that he could still live or could still go on 9 days means we are able to start this process. I'm just, as much as I want us to be able to save humans and use other animals to do it, I think the science is fascinating. We're just not having successful transplants yet. According to the researchers, they say, although this study demonstrates the feasibility of pig to human lung xenotransplantation, substantial challenges related to organ rejection and infection remain. You think? Now, when somebody goes, why would they do the study if they knew there was a chance of it failing? In science, we want to test the boundaries to see what we could do that works. And so, obviously, sticking an organ from an animal into a human is going to get rejected. But can we come up with the right recipe to allow humans to make it work? We don't have enough humans donating organs to other humans. We don't. And then with that report last week saying some medical centers were not following proper protocols and almost hastening the extraction of the organ before the patient was officially brain dead scares people. And you have such a growing distrust of the medical community that people are thinking, no, if I say I'm an organ donor, they're not going to try to save me. They'll try to only keep me alive enough to get my organs because they really, really need my organs. And people fear that doctors or medical centers would do that. Then you have this stupid, company, I don't want to name the medical center, that gets accused of doing that. It really hurts public perception and public trust of the system. So if we have non-human options, such as animals, it's unlimited supply. It's huge. They say in the 2023 waiting list for all organ transplants was twice as long as the number completed, meaning 1 out of 2 people will never get their transplant. They say last year there were more than 48,000 transplants in the United States, but 103,000 people were on waiting lists. 13 people in the U.S. die every day waiting for a transplant. Now, one of the first organs or pieces of organs that we have been successful with have been pig valves for the heart. Pig valves have been transplanted to human hearts for the past 30 years. And we got good at that. But a whole heart and a whole kidney, we have to do a lot of genetic modification because we have to learn what is the body picking up that it's going to reject. We might think we know, but we don't. There's a saying, man danks, God links. Man works, God laughs. We might think we have this down to a science and we could trick nature. And no, nature laughs or God laughs. The most successful procedure done to date, according to CNN, was a man in Massachusetts, Tim Andrews. He has been living with a genetically modified pig kidney that was transplanted this January at Massachusetts General. So thank God he's on month 7 going into month 8. That's huge. That's probably one of the longest I've heard somebody last with that. I know some of you are thinking, but Dr. Daliah, what's the quality of life? Well, it depends. If the immunosuppressant drugs and the antibiotics, and they keep going in and out of a hospital, no, they're not getting a good quality of life. But if they're on a regimen and that regimen allows them to still live, I think it's worth it. You know, one thing that I think scares us about death and dying is we didn't get to close the chapter. We didn't get to say our goodbyes. My dad died too soon at the age of 62. Now, most men, I think all men in our family don't live past 63. They just die younger. And you know, and I remember my mom telling him that. In fact, when he turned 62 that year, I remember she was joking. This is the year, and then he ends up dying of a heart attack later in the year. And so I'm of the thinking, if you get a few more days, grab those few more days. Make sure you talk to the family. Tell your family how you feel, what you think, or even before you are at that point, make your videos. Make your I love you videos. One thing I'm, doing with the kids is, here's my show segments. This is advice for you and the grandkids and hopefully the great grandkids. Here's my library of it. There's a lot of advice I want to give you. I want to make you videos but do it while you're healthy. Tell family members who you love that you love them now. Don't wait till you're on your deathbed. This is why I like the idea of honor parties than funerals. I heard that somebody had cancer, so they decided to throw a live funeral for her, but I don't want to call it a live funeral. I like the idea of an honor party. Why wait to hear how people think and how people feel about you till after you die? Let's have a party now. Let's hear it now. Right? Even if it's a roast. I'd like to see, while you're alive, do what you need to do. Get what you need to get done. See what you want to see. And I understand not all of us have money to go to Japan and whatever. But God forbid, We are going to be faced with the idea of, well, we're going to need an organ. And they're going to give you a pig organ or you're going to die. Or you're, that's not the time to go, well, wait a second, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to add. That's not the time. And we can only do so much. We think that we want science to be able to prevent us from dying altogether. Unfortunately, we just can't be 150 years old. We are going to have humans living till 150. In fact, somebody alive right now, they say will be 150 years old before they die. In the next 90 years or however they're alive right now. They could be a baby right now. We are going to be getting there. But I could barely walk with my hips and knees and I'm middle-aged. I just couldn't imagine what condition I would be in at 100 plus years old. But just don't wait. We'll do the best we can. And I think organ transplantation is amazing for what we could do in terms of salvaging people's lives who shouldn't be dying yet. But we need to do a much better job of, one, instilling trust in the system and hopefully recruiting people who would not mind donating an organ when they're ready. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one thing I am a fan of is testing the waters or doing a pilot or a pilot study and see if something works. And the biggest problem I had with Obamacare is nobody tested and tried it out. All of a sudden this law gets passed and everything we predicted about people losing their doctor, deductibles getting more expensive, people not having a doctor, medicine going into a free fall, people not getting their cancer picked up early, insurance company now covering less than they ever did before, came true. Because nobody tested the system out. It was all about let's pass the bill, let's pass the bill. Same thing with mail-in ballots. I said before the 2020 election, I'm like, we need to test this out. All right, something tells me this is going to be a big cluster in a seventh. And it was. But no, people just jump right in. So Zohran Mamdani with New York City and his hopes to become mayor, which it looks like he's on his way to do. He's got huge fundraising and he's up against three people who are splitting the vote. Wants to have free bus fare, government-run grocery stores, the Intifada globalized because he's not speaking against it. He definitely should not be representing the Democratic Party. But Democrats are like, if he becomes the mayor of New York, we're going to have to show some support. We're going to have to work with him. And you're starting to see more Democrats endorse him because they think he's going to be the winner. Well, what he's proposing, do we know if it works? Well, Kansas City has tried government-run grocery stores. And from what we understand, not going well at all. In fact, I think some have closed. Well, what about the bus issue? Well, we're being told that now is hitting the brakes. According to the New York Post, Kansas City's $50 million experiment with free bus fare is hitting the brakes. Why? The city can't afford it. So Zohran Mamdani, and we're talking, this is Kansas City. Kansas City's huge, but it's not New York huge. Zohran Mamdani in New York wants free buses in the 5 boroughs and Soviet-style city-owned grocery stores. Yet when Kansas City tried it, didn't work. Their government-run grocery store abruptly closed earlier this month. And they used COVID-19 relief money to institute free buses. But the funding is dried up. The riders and conductors, I guess, slammed the buses as unreliable, filthy. They were rolling homeless shelters because people would live on the bus. And that could also happen in New York City. They go, when you go from charging a fare to not charging a fare, ridership goes up. You end up with the degradation of service. Mamdani has been advocating free bus service. See, that's what these people do. They advocate free, free, free. We'll have the rich pay. Free, free, free. Well, that doesn't work. I mean, all this, free, free, free stuff people are getting with Obamacare. How's that working for you? My mammograms have gone up. My hysterectomy became more expensive. I'm glad some people got free, but it didn't work out for the average person. And you have a lot of people that will not benefit from the free that will want to stop paying. And the fact that individuals wanting to use a free bus can't get a seat because people are using it and staying on the, because it's warm. It gets really cold in Kansas City. And it also gets hot in Kansas City. So they could stay on a bus, climate controlled, and just keep riding it. Read a book, listen to music, work on their computer. That doesn't work for a city where you need to get on the bus and get the hell off the bus and go to where you need to be. So my concern is people are not going to care about what happened in Kansas City. They're going to say, well, let's let Mamdani be the socialist experiment. And let's just see what he could do. And if it doesn't work, he'll lose an election. The only problem is New York is too important to screw up. Now, I told you, for those of you really stressing his winning, I mean, that's the only silver lining. If people see what a mess, it is, then the whole socialist movement will maybe slow down. But I don't want to see New York suffer. I love New York City. It's one of my favorite cities. And so the other thing I'm kind of concerned about is their medical system is lacking. And money going to the buses, putting money into the, where are we putting this money? Did we still defund the police? And what really ticks me off is there's no responsibility and onus by these politicians. They promise the world. And then when they can't make it work, well, I'm in office, so it doesn't matter. Not cool. And your platforming saying, I'm going to just be against Trump. Yeah, that might work with some people who don't like Trump, but now these grocery businesses are really ticked off. And we're being told that Governor Hochul is not too happy about what Mamdani wants to do in terms of these government-run grocery stores. Because she's a fan of private industry. Or free enterprise. She goes, I favor free enterprise. And so one thing that makes New York thrive are these small businesses, these bodegas, these delis, but we have a socialist / communist that is in the lead, getting a lot of money, getting a lot of support, because you do have a growing group of progressives who are pro-socialism, pro-communism. I've even heard people say, you know what, if we can't afford healthcare, then fine, let's just go socialized. I go, socialized health systems are not working that well. We need to how I really feel it should be is where we have these free clinics throughout throughout the country, where it is staffed by doctors and nurses who need their CME, who need their licensing, and they could get their fees waived. They could get their CME waived by them donating 1 day a month. There are enough of us to be able to staff these clinics in our local locations. Not to mention it's great learning and it's great access. CT scans, X-ray machines. These are constantly being recycled through the medical community because as radiology companies need to have more, they have to get rid of their old ones. So we have somebody donate the CT scan, donate the MRI, donate the X-ray machine. We have pharmaceutical companies with medications that they could shorten the expiration date, and then that extra month or two that they shortened it by where the medicines are still good, help stock the supply closets. And even if it's not a free clinic, $5 to get in and get seen. You have a lot of donors who are giving millions of dollars to these universities. Why don't they get their name on the clinic? Then you have your private insurance that also exists. You also have your Medicare and your Medicaid. But if somebody needs help and they need a place to go to, right now they're just going to one of the few hospitals for free care. Well, if we have these clinics, and even if it's just $5, so that we have skin in the game, we could still help a lot of community members. And will improve. We could do our outreach, our blood pressure checks, our diabetes control, our vaccination programs. And there's plenty of room and there's plenty of money. Take away that funding from Obamacare, and you could easily build or retrofit, even help staff these clinics. But no, we're giving insurance companies money. We're wasting all this money on a faulty website and on advertising and on political fundraising. We could do a much better job with that money. 1-877-DOC-Daliah.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did, and just maybe someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
We're back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So this is interesting. You know, for years we heard that the Bermuda Triangle was one of the scariest geometric shapes or geological shapes on Earth. Scary because of UFOs and ships never being seen from again. It's one of the planet's strangest phenomena. Well, scientists think that the Bermuda Triangle, that's located between Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda, is pretty explanatory. And Dr. Simon Boxall, an oceanographer from the University of Southampton, says the real explanation does not really involve aliens or UFOs. According to Daily Mail, he says that if a boat or ship disappears, it's probably because due to rogue waves, extreme storm waves. They're unpredictable. They could reach twice the height of surrounding waves, tower up to 100 feet, 30 meters in air. They're abnormally steep, can hit unexpectedly from directions other than the prevailing wind. And if a large ship is not prepared for this, it could sink within a matter of 2 or 3 minutes and very quickly before anybody else could see it happen. So this Bermuda Triangle, Bermuda's north, Miami is east, west, and then Puerto Rico is south, is the famous triangle, which also has that's where we also see a lot of Atlantic hurricane activity. So I've never been shocked by it. I thought that there was, it had to obviously do with the waves or water conditions. But apparently theories surrounded this deadly pull of the Bermuda Triangle since the disappearance of the USS Cyclops back in 1918. It was an American coal-carrying ship that had been used to ferry fuel to warships during World War I. But in March of 1918, the ship was passing through the Bermuda Triangle on its way from Salvador in Brazil to Baltimore, and then vanished without even sending a distress signal. No trace of this vessel or 306 crew members have ever been found. So due to the sudden nature of it disappearing, people thought that it was aliens that took it. But Dr. Boxall thinks that no, the USS Cyclops was probably sunk by a rogue wave, and because of its weight and how deep it is, it's too deep to see or find. Although that would be really interesting to see what they found with radar, and they could do a lot now. But there's been a lot of lost shipwrecks, in the Bahamas and near there and in that triangle area. And so big waves, these rogue killer waves, could be huge. Like I said, twice the size. So it makes more sense that that's what it is. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, there's no evidence that mysterious disappearances occur with any greater frequency in the Bermuda Triangle than any other large, well-traveled area of the ocean. So that's interesting. That losses could happen anywhere. But see, I'm thinking it's such a popular part of the Atlantic Ocean, north of the Caribbean, that it seems like a lot. So you guys might know more, but I've even seen different shapes of the Bermuda Triangle. Some don't include Miami. Some go to some call the Bermuda Triangle from Baltimore to Bermuda to San Juan. I heard it extends to Miami. So, but all right. Well, enough of geology and geography. What's the study of the oceans? Oceanography. Enough of that. This is an interesting article. 17 celebrities who were forced to hide their ethnicity to make it in Hollywood. We see a lot of stage names. And when you look at the stage names, like Tony Curtis, Kirk Douglas, Martin Sheen, those aren't their real names. And stage names were names that people would use to make their life easier in acting and make it more catchy. And my name originally was Daliah Sodieru, and then I got married to Corey Wax, so I'm Daliah Wax. But for radio, it was easier to just be Dr. Daliah. I didn't really want to change my name. I was thinking that Natasha would be really exotic, but I kept Daliah, and I like it. I'm good with it. But interestingly, Rita Hayworth was born Margarita Carmen Cancino. I believe she's of Spaniard descent. And she rechanged her name. She also, I believe, had certain electrolysis and things like that to change her hairline as she was to, I guess, give her a taller brow. So very interesting because back then, again, there was a lot of anti-Spaniard sentiment. Martin Sheen. Martin Sheen was born Ramon Gerard Antonio Estevez. Well, just like Emilio Estevez is a son. People ask, wait a second, how do you have Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez from the same dad? Well, it's because his dad was Ramon Gerard Antonio Estevez. And so he started out as an actor in the 1950s. He had trouble getting roles because of his name. So he took on the stage name Martin Sheen. Martin from a CBS producer, Robert Dale Martin, and Sheen from Bishop Fulton J. Sheen, the auxiliary bishop of New York at the time, came up with Martin Sheen, and history ever since. Ramon Estevez is still on his birth certificate, by the way. Raquel Welch was known as Jo Raquel Tejada. She was also told to change her hair, look, and name. And now some even told her to call herself Debbie. But her name is Raquel, and then she was married to James Welch, hence Raquel Welch. So that's very interesting. The Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley was born Krishna Pandit Banji. And he was told that with his birth name, he would always play servants, never kings, leading men, politicians, or leading leaders. So he changed his name to Ben, the nickname of his father, and his spice trader grandfather, King Clove, to Kingsley. Ben Kingsley. That's fascinating. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas was born Isur Danielovich. Of course, he was too concerned about his name and anti-Semitism, and so he changed his name. He said he later regretted it. He wished he kept it, but Kirk Douglas, again, became a household name. Anthony Quinn. Anthony Quinn was born Manuel Antonio Rondolfo Quinn Oaxaca. So he said he was never forced to hide his ethnicity, but he did, and it helped him in terms of his Hollywood career. Natalie Wood was born Natalie Zakarenko. Zakarenko, I think, Polish descent or Russian descent? So I'm not too sure. Tony Curtis was born Bernard Schwartz. Again, he was concerned about his, Schwartz sounding German, his Jewish roots. A relative on his mother's side was named Kurtz. So Tony came from Anthony Adverse, the first novel he read, called himself Tony Curtis. Chloe Bennett was born Chloe Wang. She lived in China. She's half Chinese, speaks Mandarin, born in both America. She was born in America, I believe, but she goes as Chloe Bennett. Boris Karloff was born William Henry Pratt. And then let me see, Winona Ryder. Winona Ryder was Winona Laura Horowitz. And she changed her name, again, because she was anti-Semitism in Hollywood and things like that. So, interesting. Doris Day was Doris Mary Ann Kappelhoff. They said Kappelhoff seemed too long, and so Doris Day was a simpler name. Helen Mirren was born Elena Lydia Mironov. So my guess, Russian. And again, I can't say 100%. Gene Simmons was born Chaim Witz. So he had to downplay his Jewish heritage at the beginning of his career. He says, I dress British, think Yiddish, and I'm Jewish. He said, that's fine. Shut the blank up. So, yeah, it's interesting how people have had to kind of sadly hide their ethnicity. But that's where we are. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.